Ella loved the Whisperwind Forest more than anything. Sunlight dappled through the leaves, painting shifting patterns on the mossy floor, and the air always smelled of pine and damp earth.
Chaque ever twist in the winding paths, ever hidden burrow, and ever ancient tree.
Today, she was on a mission to find the perfect feather for her collection, a shimmering blue one she'd spotted a few days ago near Old Man Tiber's cottage. She wasn't looking for adventures, not exactly. Adventures usually found her. A cheeky squirrel, Nutsy, darted down a nearby oak, chattering at her as if scolding her for taking so long. "Slowpoke," he seemed to say, twitching his bushy tail. Ella giggled, offering him a piece of the apple she'd brought for a snack. He snatched it with lightning speed, disappearing back into the branches. A robin landed on her shoulder, tilting its head and chirping a sweet melody. Ella gently stroked its feathers.
"Hello, little friend," she whispered. "Beautiful day, isn't it?"
As she continued her search, she stumbled upon the roots of the oldest oak in the forest, a tree so ancient, its branches reached towards the sky like gnarled fingers. The roots were thick and tangled, creating a small, hidden cave. And there, nestled amongst them, was something she'd never seen before. It was a button. Not a normal button, like those on her coat. This one was a vibrant, glowing red, pulsing with a soft, warm light. It seemed to hum with a quiet energy, beckoning her closer. It was smooth and cool to the touch, unlike anything she'd ever felt. "What is this?" she breathed, her eyes wide with wonder. She glanced around, half expecting Old Man Tiber to appear, his eyes twinkling with a knowing smile. She remembered his stories, tales of mischievous forest spirits and warnings about disturbing the natural order. He often spoke of things best left undisturbed. But curiosity, as it often did, got the better of her. "Just one little press," she murmured to herself, her finger hovering over the glowing surface. She hesitated for a moment, a tiny voice in the back of her head whispering a warning. But the button's glow was so captivating, so inviting. With a deep breath, she pressed it. The forest held its breath.
For a heartbeat, nothing happened.
Then, a single snowflake drifted down from the clear blue sky. Another followed, and another, until a flurry of soft, white snow began to fall, swirling around Ella in the middle of a warm summer afternoon. Nutsy the squirrel peeked out from his tree, blinking in confusion. The robin took flight, chirping in alarm. Ella gasped, her jaw dropping. "Snow," she whispered, her voice filled with a mixture of excitement and disbelief.
"In summer."
The snow stopped as quickly as it began, leaving the forest sparkling with a dusting of white against the green.
"Ella, giddy with excitement," pressed the button again.
This time, the sun blazed down with an intensity she'd never felt, even in the height of summer. It was warm enough to shed her jacket, and the forest floor shimmered with golden light. "Wow!" she exclaimed, twirling in a circle. "This is amazing." She experimented with the button throughout the afternoon, a mischievous grin spreading across her face. A press, and the sky filled with pink, fluffy clouds that rained down not water, but tiny, colorful candies. Gummy bears bounced off leaves, chocolate drops landed on her tongue, and the forest floor became a sticky, sweet paradise. Another press, and a gentle breeze carried the scent of 1,000 flowers, even though it wasn't springtime. She couldn't wait to share her discovery with her best friend, Leo. She raced to his house, a handful of candy raindrops clutched tightly in her hand. Leo, a boy with a perpetually thoughtful expression and a love for all things scientific, was examining a collection of rocks in his backyard. "Ella, what have you been up to?" he asked, looking up with a smile.
"You won't believe it." Ella burst out, presenting the candy raindrops.
"I found a button, and it can change the weather." Leo's eyebrows rose in skepticism. He cautiously tasted a raindrop.
"It tastes like strawberry."
"Okay, that is strange." Ella eagerly showed him the button, demonstrating its power. She conjured a miniature rainbow, then a burst of warm sunshine even as the sun began to set. Leo watched, his initial amusement slowly giving way to concern. "Ella, this is incredible, but are you sure it's a good idea to mess with the weather?" he asked, his voice laced with caution. "Everything in nature has a balance." Changing things like this could have consequences.
Oh, come on, Leo.
It's just a little fun. Ella protested.
Look. I can make it snow glitter.
She pressed the button, and a shower of sparkling dust descended, coating everything in a shimmering layer.
Leo sighed. It is pretty.
But did you notice Old Man Hemlock's apple trees? They're blooming already. It's almost autumn, Ella.
Apples don't bloom now.
Ella hadn't noticed. She glanced towards Old Man Hemlock's orchard, and her smile faltered. Sure enough, the trees were covered in delicate white blossoms, a jarring sight against the backdrop of late summer foliage. That's odd, she admitted, a flicker of doubt crossing her face. Meanwhile, across town, Old Man Hemlock himself was surveying his orchard with a worried frown. Never seen anything like it, he muttered to his wife Martha.
Apples blooming in August?
The bees are all confused, buzzing around like they don't know what to do. If they don't pollinate at the right time, there won't be any apples this year. He shook his head, a deep line creasing his forehead.
So meetings not right.
Back in the forest, Ella tried to brush off Leo's concerns. It's just one little thing.
It won't hurt anything.
But even as she said the words, a nagging feeling of unease began to grow within her. The glitter snow felt less magical now, and the candy rain seemed a little wasteful. The next morning dawned not with sunshine, but with a thick, swirling fog that clung to the ground like a ghostly shroud. Ella, peering out her window, felt a shiver that wasn't from the cold. It was a feeling of wrongness. She rushed to the forest, hoping to find everything as she'd left it, but the scene that greeted her was far from reassuring. The usually vibrant forest was muted, subdued. Birds, normally chattering excitedly, were silent, huddled amongst the branches. Squirrels, instead of playfully chasing each other, darted nervously between trees, their bushy tails twitching. A deer, usually unafraid, bolted at the sound of her footsteps. Something was deeply unsettling the creatures of the woods. She found Leo already there, meticulously examining a patch of wilting wildflowers. His face was grim. "Look at these, Ella," he said, pointing to the drooping petals. "These are summer blooms. They shouldn't be wilting now. The temperature's fluctuating wildly, hot, then cold, then humid.
It's stressing evating out.
I don't understand," Ella stammered, her voice barely a whisper. "I just wanted to have some fun." "Fun with consequences, Ella," Leo replied softly, but with a firmness she hadn't heard before. "Everything is connected. The plants, the animals, even the weather. You change one thing, and it affects everything else." He pulled out a diagram he'd drawn, illustrating a complex web of interconnected elements. "It's like an ecosystem, Ella. Each part relies on the others. You disrupt that balance, and the whole thing starts to fall apart." As they spoke, Old Man Tiber emerged from the trees, his face etched with worry. He'd always seemed a bit eccentric, filled with tales of forest lore, but now his eyes held a serious intensity. "The weather ain't right, child," he said, his voice raspy with age. "It's the weather spirits. They're angered. Been keepin' the world in harmony for centuries, they have. But someone's been meddlin' with their work." Ella's heart pounded.
Weatherspirits.
"Aye," Tiber nodded.
They live up in the sky realms, beyond the clouds.
Each one controls a different part of the weather: rain, sun, wind, snow. They work together to keep things balanced. That button you found. It's a relic from a time long past, a tool that should have stayed hidden. It disrupts their harmony, confuses them. But how do I fix it?" Ella asked, desperation creeping into her voice. "You gotta go to them, child. You gotta go to the sky realms and ask for forgiveness.
It won't be easy.
The journey is perilous, and the spirits ain't known for their patience. But if anyone can mend this, it's you." He paused, his gaze locking with Ella's. "But be warned, child.
The spirits demand respect.
And they won't take kindly to someone who carelessly disrupts the natural order." Later that day, the town held an emergency meeting. Farmers lamented the failing crops, shopkeepers worried about lost business, and families expressed fear about the unpredictable storms that had begun to roll in. The once cheerful town square was filled with anxious murmurs. Ella, listening from the edge of the crowd, felt a wave of guilt wash over her. The fun she'd had, the silly games she'd played, had caused this. The weight of her actions settled heavily on her shoulders.
Ze candy rein and glitters no seemed like a distant, foolish dream.
She turned to Leo, her eyes filled with tears. "I have to fix this," she whispered. "I have to go to the Sky Realms." Leo, though still concerned, placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder.
"I believe in you, Ella.
"But remember what I showed you about balance. This isn't just about magic, it's about understanding the consequences of our actions." He handed her a small, waterproof notebook filled with his diagrams and observations. "Take this. It might help you understand what you're up against." The following morning, as the last of the town's anxieties hung in the air, a shadow fell over Ella. Not a shadow of worry, but of wings. A magnificent great-horned owl, larger than any she'd ever seen, landed gracefully on the branch above her bedroom window. Its golden eyes held an ancient wisdom, and a small scroll was tied to its leg. "You are the one who disturbed the harmony," the owl hooted, its voice a low rumble that seemed to vibrate through the very air. "The weather spirits have deemed your plea worthy of a chance. I am Corvus, a messenger, and I will guide you to the Sky Realms. But be warned, the path is fraught with challenges." Ella, clutching Leo's notebook, felt a surge of both fear and determination. "I'm ready," she said, her voice trembling slightly.
Corvus sprit hies wings. Ten follow me.
Their journey began with an ascent. Not a climb, but a lifting, as Corvus effortlessly carried Ella on his broad back. The world shrank below, the familiar forest transforming into a patchwork quilt of greens and browns. Soon, they were soaring above the clouds, entering a realm of swirling mist and ethereal light. The first challenge came swiftly. A gale, born of a frustrated wind spirit, buffeted them relentlessly. Corvus fought valiantly, but the winds threatened to tear them from the sky. Ella remembered Leo's notes on air currents and instinctively leaned into the wind, adjusting her weight to help Corvus maintain balance.
"Good," Corvus grunted, straining against the force. "You possess a quick mindestens."
The wind spirits test those who would enter their domain. They seek respect for their power. They navigated the tempest, finally emerging into a calmer expanse of sky. Before them stretched a bridge woven from pure cloud, shimmering with rainbow hues. But guarding the bridge was a colossal figure, a cloud giant, his face permanently etched with a scowl. "Halt!" The giant boomed, his voice like thunder. "No one crosses my bridge without answering my riddle. What has an eye, but cannot see?" Ella's mind raced. She remembered a game she used to play with her grandfather. "A needle," she exclaimed. The giant grumbled, clearly disappointed. "Correct. You may pass. But do not think this is the last of your trials." As they continued, Ella found herself lost in thought, a wave of memories washing over her. She recalled countless instances of acting without thinking, grabbing the biggest piece of cake without asking, rushing ahead on hikes and leaving her friends behind, blurting out secrets without considering the consequences. She'd always been impulsive, driven by immediate gratification. It was a pattern she hadn't recognized until now, seeing it reflected in the chaos she'd unleashed upon the world. "I always just did things," she murmured to herself. "I never stopped to think about what might happen." Suddenly, playful sprites, made of swirling wind and glittering stardust, surrounded them. They zipped and zoomed, tugging at Ella's hair and giggling. "Lost, little one?" One of them chirped.
"Need a little push? A little change of direction?"
Corvus warned, the wind sprites are mischievous. They delight in testing one's resolve. Do not let them distract you. Ella, remembering Leo's warning about staying focused, politely but firmly said, "Thank you, but we know where we're going. We need to reach the weather spirits." The sprites, surprised by her directness, reluctantly dispersed, leaving a trail of sparkling dust. Corvus nodded approvingly. "You are learning, Ella."
The Sky Realms demand clarity of purpose.
The journey itself is a test of character, a preparation for what awaits you. As they flew onward, Ella knew this wasn't just a journey to the sky realms, it was a journey within herself. A journey to understand the weight of her actions and the importance of a thoughtful heart. The cloud bridge dissolved behind them, and Ella gasped. The sky realms weren't simply above the world, they were our world unto themselves. Mountains of amethyst floated amidst swirling nebulae, waterfalls of liquid light cascaded into bottomless voids, and colossal crystals pulsed with inner radiance. The air hummed with energy, a symphony of crackling power and serene calm. It was a breathtaking, overwhelming display of nature's raw, untamed beauty. Corvus led her through this fantastical landscape, finally halting before a vast, open-air court carved into the side of a colossal swirling cloud. Upon a dais formed from a solidified rainbow sat 4 figures, each radiating an aura of immense power. These were the weather spirits. The first, Solara, was a being of pure sunlight, her form shimmering and almost too bright to look upon directly. Warmth radiated from her, but it felt agitated, flickering like a disturbed flame. Beside her sat Nimbus, a regal figure composed of swirling grey clouds, his presence heavy with the promise of rain. His eyes, the color of storm clouds, held a deep sadness. To Nimbus's left was Zephyra, a whirlwind of vibrant energy, her form constantly shifting and reforming. She crackled with restless power, and tiny cyclones danced around her head. Finally, there was Boreas, a stoic figure sculpted from ice and snow, radiating a chilling calm that belied an underlying fury. Solara spoke first, her voice like the chime of distant bells, but edged with anger.
Mortal child, you stand before us, the guardians of balance.
You have dared to tamper with the very forces that govern this world, and for what?
A fleeting moment of amusement? Nimbus' voice rumbled like distant thunder.
The rains have become erratic, nourishing some lands while leaving others to parch. The rivers swell and flood, then dwindle to dust. My patterns are broken, my purpose, mocked. He gestured with a hand of swirling mist, and a vision appeared before Ella, a parched field, cracked and barren under a relentless sun. Zephyra spun faster, her voice a high-pitched whine. The winds are confused. They carry seeds to barren rock and scatter blossoms into the frozen north. Birds are lost, sailors adrift. My currents are chaos, not guidance. She conjured a miniature hurricane that spun wildly before dissipating with a frustrated sigh. Boreas remained silent for a long moment, his icy gaze fixed on Ella. When he finally spoke, his voice was like the grinding of glaciers. The snows fall when they should not, melting too soon, disrupting the natural cycle.
The mountains weep, and the creatures of the cold suffer.
You have stolen the peace of winter. He showed Ella a vision of shivering polar bears struggling to find stable ice flows. Ella felt a wave of shame wash over her. The joy she'd once felt, the thrill of controlling the weather, had vanished, replaced by a crushing weight of responsibility. She looked at each spirit, at the pain reflected in their ancient eyes, and knew she had to explain, to apologize, to make them understand. I didn't understand, she stammered, her voice barely a whisper. I found a button, and it just made things happen. I didn't realize it would cause so much harm. I just wanted to have fun, to share something magical with my friends. Solara's light dimmed slightly. Ignorance is not an excuse, child. Power without understanding is a dangerous thing. But I understand now, Ella insisted, her voice gaining strength.
Ivy sehen the damage, the suffering. Ivy traveled here to make things right.
I'll give the button back, and I'll help you restore the balance, however I can. Ella took a deep breath, focusing on the faces of the weather spirits. She began to recount her journey, not as a tale of adventure, but as a testament to the consequences of her actions. I saw a village where the constant sunshine withered the crops, leaving the people hungry, she said, her voice trembling with sincerity. I met a family of snow foxes whose den melted because of a sudden warm spell. They were searching for a new home, their pups shivering and lost. And I helped a flock of migrating birds find their way when a rogue wind blew them off course. She paused, tears welling in her eyes. Each step of the way, I saw how my actions rippled outwards, causing pain and disruption. It wasn't just about strange weather anymore. It was about real creatures, real people, suffering because of my carelessness. She looked directly at Nimbus. I understand now that rain isn't just water falling from the sky. It's life, nourishment, hope for the farmer. And sunshine isn't just warmth, it's essential, but too much can destroy. Suddenly, a warmth bloomed in her chest, a feeling of connection that wasn't her own. It was Leo, reaching out across the magical link they'd forged. "Tell them what you've learned, Ella," his voice echoed in her mind, clear and strong. "Tell them about the balance. Tell them you understand." Taking strength from his encouragement, Ella continued. "Old Man Tiber told me stories about the weather spirits, about how you work together to maintain harmony. I didn't listen then. I thought it was just a story. But now I see it's true. Everything is connected. Every element has its place, its purpose. And when you disrupt that, you cause suffering." She reached out her hand, offering the glowing red button. "I brought the button with me.
I want to give it back. I don't want it anymore."
I understand now that some things are meant to be left undisturbed, that some powers are too great for one person to wield. "I'm willing to do whatever it takes to help you restore the balance," she pleaded, her voice filled with earnestness. "I can help replant the withered fields, guide lost animals, anything. I want to earn your forgiveness, and more importantly, I want to make amends for the harm I've caused." Solara's light flickered again, but this time, it seemed less angry and more considering. Nimbus's stormy expression softened slightly, and Zephyr's restless energy seemed to calm. Even Boreas's icy gaze held a hint of something other than disapproval. A long silence descended upon the court, broken only by the hum of energy that permeated the sky realms. Ella stood before them, her heart pounding, waiting for their judgment. She knew she couldn't undo the past, but she hoped, with all her being, that she could prove she was worthy of a second chance. Solara, the sun spirit, was the first to speak, her voice like the gentle warmth of a summer day.
"Your remorse is genuine, little one.
And your understanding. It is a beginning." She gestured towards Nimbus, the rain spirit.
"Nimbus, your tukukts." Nimbus rumbled, the sound echoing like distant thunder.
The disruption was significant. Many crops have failed, and the river spirits are still recovering. But she offers to help. And her willingness to relinquish the source of the chaos is commendable. Zephyra, the wind spirit, swirled around Ella, a playful gust ruffling her hair. "She's a whirlwind of energy, this one. A bit reckless, perhaps, but with a good heart."
I sense a bourgeoning respect for the currents of nature.
Boreas, the snow spirit, remained stoic, but a subtle softening around his icy eyes betrayed his acceptance.
The balance is fragile.
Restoring it will require effort, dedication, and a willingness to learn. With a collective nod, the weather spirits agreed. Solara extended a hand, and the glowing red button floated from Ella's palm towards it. As it touched Solara's fingertips, a wave of golden energy pulsed outwards, washing over the sky realms. "The button will be returned to its slumber," Solara announced, "safeguarded within the heart of the ancient oak. Its power is too great for mortal hands." Then Boreas spoke, "The restoration won't be instant. The damage has been done, and nature requires time to heal. But we will guide you, Ella. You will learn to mend the rifts you have created." And so began Ella's apprenticeship. She worked alongside each of the weather spirits, understanding the intricacies of their roles. She learned from Nimbus how to coax gentle rain from the clouds, nourishing the parched earth. With Zephyra, she helped guide the winds, ensuring they carried seeds to fertile lands and didn't wreak havoc on the towns below. Solara taught her about the sun's life-giving energy and the importance of moderation. And Boreas showed her the beauty of the quiet stillness that winter brings, a time for rest and renewal. It wasn't easy. There were moments of frustration, times when Ella felt overwhelmed by the sheer complexity of the natural world. But with each passing day, she grew more confident, more attuned to the rhythms of the sky realms. She discovered that restoring the balance wasn't about controlling the weather, but about understanding it, respecting it, and working with it. Back on Earth, the effects of the restoration were slow but steady. First, a gentle rain began to fall, soaking into the dry soil. Then, the withered crops slowly began to revive, their leaves unfurling with renewed vigor. Animals, hesitant at first, began to return to the forest, their calls echoing through the trees. The snow foxes, guided by a soft flurry of Boreas's snow, rediscovered a safe, sheltered den. In the town, smiles began to reappear on faces. The farmer, Old Man Hemlock, watched his fields bloom with hope, tears glistening in his eyes. Children laughed as they splashed in puddles, and the air was filled with a sense of joy that had been missing for weeks. The townspeople knew something had shifted, a weight lifted from their shoulders, and although they didn't know the full story, they felt a renewed sense of peace. Ella, watching from the sky realms, felt a warmth spread through her heart. She wasn't just fixing the weather, she was helping to heal a community, to restore faith in the natural world. She realized that true magic wasn't about wielding power, but about using it responsibly, with kindness and respect.
The descent back to Earth felt differences time.
It wasn't a rush of excitement, but a gentle settling, a feeling of coming home with a newfound understanding. The sky realms shimmered behind her, a breathtaking farewell of swirling clouds and radiant light. As she stepped back into her familiar forest, the scent of pine and damp earth filled her lungs, but it wasn't the same scent she remembered. It was richer, deeper, infused with a reverence she hadn't possessed before. Leo was waiting at the edge of the woods, his face etched with worry that dissolved into a relieved smile when he saw her.
Ella, you're back. Are you okay?
Ella ran to him, throwing her arms around him. I'm more than okay, Leo.
I understand now. Everything.
She recounted her journey, the stern but ultimately forgiving weather spirits, the arduous work of restoring balance, and the profound lessons she'd learned. Leo listened intently, his brow furrowed in thought.
So the button, it's gone.
Returned to where I found it, nestled amongst the roots of the old oak, Ella confirmed.
A reminder, I think.
A reminder of what happens when we forget to respect the world around us. Days turned into weeks, and Ella found herself changed. The impulsive girl who'd carelessly pressed the glowing button was gone, replaced by someone thoughtful and considerate. She still loved exploring the forest, but now she observed it with a scientist's curiosity and a poet's heart. She noticed the delicate veins on a leaf, the intricate dance of bees amongst the wildflowers, the silent wisdom in the ancient trees. Ella felt a strong urge to share what she'd learned. She started small, telling her family about the importance of conserving water and reducing waste. Then, she began visiting the local school, sharing her story with wide-eyed children. She didn't focus on the magic, but on the message. Every action has a consequence, and even the smallest of us can make a difference. You know, she said to Leo one afternoon, while sketching designs in her notebook, telling the story is good, but we need to show people. We need to help them connect with nature, to understand why it's worth protecting. Leo, ever the pragmatist, beamed. I was thinking the same thing. Old Man Hemlock offered us a patch of land behind the town hall. He said it used to be a beautiful wildflower meadow before. Well, before everything happened. And so, the community garden was born. It wasn't just a garden, it was a living lesson. Ella and Leo, along with volunteers from the town, transformed the barren patch of land into a vibrant oasis. They grew vegetables, herbs, and flowers, all using sustainable practices. They taught composting, rainwater harvesting, and the importance of biodiversity. Old Man Tiber, his eyes twinkling with approval, often visited the garden, sharing stories of the forest and its ancient wisdom. It's a good thing you children are doing, he'd say, leaning on his walking stick.
Very good thing.
Reminding folks that the earth isn't just something to take from, but something to cherish. As the garden flourished, so did the town's spirit. People came together, sharing knowledge, laughter, and the fruits of their labor. The garden became a symbol of hope, a testament to the power of community and the resilience of nature. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden glow over the garden, Ella and Leo sat amongst the blossoming plants.
Do you ever miss it?
Leo asked, gesturing towards the sky.
The magic.
Ella smiled.
Sometimes.
But I've realized that the real magic isn't about controlling the weather or flying amongst the clouds. It's about the beauty that's right here, all around us. It's about understanding our place in the world and doing our part to protect it. She looked at Leo, her heart filled with gratitude. And it's about having a friend to share it all with. Leo squeezed her hand.
Always.